Stephen Mark Ryan from Solving the Money Problem just basically admitted that it is possible he could lose the whole Tesla stock investment. Me as a Tesla stock, all-in Tesla stock investor, I think, it is possible. I think it's very unlikely, which is why I only hold Tesla stock in my stock portfolio. And I love Stephen. He has amazing points as a bull, and anything that he says, you should pay close attention. And if he says anything to the downside of Tesla stock, I think you should pay extremely close attention. But also the context under which this was said is extremely important. This is not an alarm to sell or anything like that. So let me play the clip so that you can see this for yourself with full context as well.
If you had have asked me in 2016, what do I think my Tesla stock investment is going to do over the next 30 years, it would be a very different answer to today. Tesla continues to come up with, they just stack an S-curve onto an S-curve onto an S-curve. And I'm modeling Tesla privately out till 2069. And obviously it gets very uncertain, but I've got to at least do the exercise. What if these bots do scale? How big does a fleet of bots get? And it just gets absolutely obscene. And so I don't want to be looking back in 2040, 2050 or 2060 and thinking, man, I really wish I had invested a little bit heavier in Tesla. I don't personally need the capital, but I do have intentions for doing some very capital intensive philanthropy in the future. And so I'm trying to snowball my capital as much as possible. And I think that gives me a little bit more of a risk tolerance as well, because I'm not, if I lose it, okay, whatever, it's not going to change my lifestyle. But yeah, as I said, it's the best risk adjusted opportunity that I'm aware of in the stock market, and it's no contest. That being said, at this point in time, with the turmoil in the stock, there's bargains left, right, and center. You could take a scatter approach now and just bang this, grab this, grab this, grab this, and you'll probably be pretty happy in 5 years' time.
If I lose it, okay, whatever. It's not going to change my lifestyle. That's a direct quote from Stephen. And as an all-in Tesla stock investor, I think you have to consider what is the probability of Tesla stock going down 90%. Going down even lower. It's not zero. I think it is pretty close to zero, but it's not zero. And I do respect Stephen for pointing that out, maybe not very directly, but that was clearly what he meant, in my opinion, when he said those words, saying that he also has a high tolerance for risk because he wants to use money for philanthropy. So if you are focused on growing wealth, that is the strategy to go. Now, I do have other assets other than just Tesla stock, so in a way, I am diversified. You could say, not with my stock portfolio, though, so I'm not afraid if the stock crashes. Now, Steven also believes that Tesla stock is massively underpriced right now.
Tesla, there's been one sequence of events after the next. It's just been pummeling the stock price. And I personally feel that the stock is massively artificially suppressed. I think it's getting sort of spring-loaded, and at some point, when the macroeconomic environment calms down a little bit, there's a little bit less panic and fear. People start looking at Tesla's earnings and looking at their growth and going, wait a minute, what? Are you serious? This is a bargain. Like Tesla at this point in time, I feel is in bargain basement territory.
That's exactly what I believe as well, which is why I'm not selling Tesla stock. I am buying more. Now, is it likely that it will drop down more? If the whole market drops, I think it's very likely that it would go down further. Now, how much further is a whole different question. If you do not believe that Tesla will be the first company to solve full self-driving, if I was telling my brother to get into Tesla stock, my family, I would tell them wait until the stock drops to 120, 140. It may never happen, but if it does, which there is a possibility it will, buy the stock then. But if you are convinced about full self-driving like I am, that Tesla will definitely be the first company to solve it, then whether you buy at $300, $500 per share or $120, when the stock goes to $3,000 per share later, you will not feel bad that you bought the stock at a higher price, because you still basically made 10x your money or close to that. So I am not so really concerned about that, because the stock, a crazy possibility, it will go up. So I don't want to get out of my position in the hopes it will go down more, and then it just never happens, and then I never get back into the stock, or I get back into the stock way too late, seeing that there was a mistake and it's never going down again. I don't want to make that mistake. That mistake would be a much more painful mistake to me. Also, Stephen Mark Ryan from Solving the Money Problem points out that he's considering getting into margin. I will play that clip in a second. I know that he has a mortgage against one of the properties, and he uses the money from that to put into Tesla stock. And I didn't know if he had margin or not. So this video clarifies that indeed Stephen Mark Ryan does not have margin on stock, which is basically when you borrow money against your stock and then you buy. You can do whatever you want with that money. It's extremely dangerous because if, let's say, you have $1 million in your stock and you get, let's say, $500,000 as a loan against that stock, and if a stock drops down 51%, you lose everything. You lose the stock, and it's just not something I would ever want to do, really. I would only consider margin with extremely safe stocks, and only a tiny little bit if I need the money super fast and I have money in other places that I could use to get out of margin immediately if I wanted to, just in case the whole world starts to come to the end, because I would not want to lose my investment. So margin is something that I am not for, really. If you get a loan against a property, that's a whole different thing. If you use that money to put into a stock, I'm not opposed to against that. But just taking a loan against your stock, which is basically going into margin, I'm not a fan of that.
Of course, it still could go a lot lower. I'm not making predictions over the short term, but it's a head scratcher. I mean, it really is. Every spare cent that I can possibly accumulate is going straight in, and I'm even considering the big M word, margin.
Margin, really.
Yeah,
Got it.
Yeah. So considering that as an option as well, but
Interesting.
Not in a rush.
Yeah.
You see a robot and you're just a member of the general public at AI Day 2, you're like, huh? Boston Dynamics have already done that. I don't get it. But if you've got the additional layers of context and understanding, you go, hang on a minute. What they're doing with the brain here is just on a whole other level. So I think it's going to be a long time with the market not understanding. And I agree. This is why when I have money, I'll buy Tesla stock. I'm not trying to time it. I know I could probably sit here and wait for a big crash and load up, but it's just like, I'd rather just buy when I've got cash, and I don't really care what the price is. If Tesla was at a $5 trillion market cap, I'd still be buying today. And I'd still be very excited for the prospects. But it's much less than that now, so even better returns.
That's basically a similar strategy I am on as well. I'm definitely not trying to time a market. I think that's very smart to do if you believe in Tesla long term. If you don't believe in Tesla long term, and of course timing the stock to a certain extent is probably smarter if you don't think that Tesla has anything under its sleeves. Also, I watch most of Stephen Mark Ryan's videos, and in his videos he appears extremely confident all the time. It's nice to see Stephen being a little bit more relaxed, and also if you caught that last clip, he seemed to be slightly not nervous, but maybe just a little bit more maybe for just tiny few moments, for a few seconds, he seemed to be maybe uncomfortable when he was talking about, Tesla stock being down, timing. If you caught the moment, he swallowed his saliva. That's, we are all human, and it's nice to see Stephen in this longer form content where he just relaxes and just talks to the camera with Dave Lee. Without editing. It just makes me connect with Stephen more, and also respect him more. So after this interview, I actually have even more respect for Stephen, basically pointing out that it is possible that he could lose, his Tesla stock investment, although obviously that's extremely unlikely. And I'm glad that he would be fine if that happened. You know, before it was clear that Steven did not have a margin, I was a little bit worried for him because margin is quite dangerous. So I'm glad to hear that he is not in margin, and if he ever does go in margin, I hope he makes a video about that. That would be quite a bold move. Whether you like Steven Mark Ryan from solving the money problem or not, I believe it's, if you don't watch every single video, or at least most of his videos, especially if you don't spend much time looking at Tesla stock news and you own Tesla stock, you should really watch all of his videos. I explain why right here in this next video, titled "Watch Every Steven Mark Ryan Video, Even If You Hate Him." I'll see you there. Thank you for watching. My name is Matt Posius.